Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to check that thing out too, Sabbath. I have a funny feeling that air conditioner's getting clogged.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way it's sounding. It's not sounding too well. All right.
Mama, what I just made was hot tea. I didn't have fresh ginger, but I had powdered ginger. So I put powdered ginger, lemon, apple cider, and chia seeds, nutmeg, and clove. I made a good balm. So I would suggest you make a good balm, nice and hot, and just keep on drinking that down.
Okay.
It really helps. The ginger and fresh garlic. If you can, do you have a garlic press?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a garlic press, put in about 3 big teeth of garlic in your tea, and that acts as penicillin and a natural form of. Okay, I got a cough. I'm sorry. All right, but get warm water from Mama. Oh, hot water. I mean, I'm as hot as I can take it. Okay, guys.
All right. Sure. Yeah, we'll try that. Let's see here. So we're at Job 17. Let's see who hasn't read yet. We had Marissa read. I read. Mom, you're not feeling up to it yet.
I don't think so.
All right. Okay.
Read, brother.
All right, Sister Josie, thank you for volunteering. Yeah. If you could read Job chapter 17.
17. Okay, I'll be reading out of the TS 2009.
Okay.
Okay. Job 17:1. My spirit has been broken. My days have been extinguished. Burial sites are for me. Truly, mockeries are with me, and my eyes rest on their insults. Please lay down a pledge for me with yourself. Who would strike hands with me? For you have hidden their heart from understanding. Therefore, you do not exalt them. He who denounces friends for a share, even the eyes of his children shall fail. But he has made me a byword of the people, whereas in former times I was as a drum. And from sorrow my eye has grown dim, and all my members are like shadows. Upright ones are astonished at this, and the innocent stirs himself up against the defiled one. And the righteous holds to his way, and he who has clean hands becomes stronger and stronger. But please come back again, all of you, for I do not find a wise one among you. My days have passed by, my plans have been broken off, the desires of my heart. They would turn night into day, saying that light is near in the presence of darkness. If I wait, Sheol is my house. I shall make my bed in darkness. I shall say to corruption, you are my father, to the worm, you are my mother and my sister. Where then is my expectancy? As for my expectancy, who would see it? Would it sink down into Sheol? Would we together go down into the dust? Wow, that's just heavy duty, sorrow, deep pain going on.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Wow, it's a lot of
Interesting choice of words that the translator put there. I'm just seeing it differs a lot in different translations. Like the ESV, I think says the pit, like the bottomless pit. You are my father,
right.
my mother. So it seems like it's differs a little bit. I guess it depends on what definition of that Hebrew word they're using. Septuagint actually says death, which is kind of interesting. Death as a person almost. I've called upon death to be my father, and corruption, my mother and sister.
Wow.
I just find that interesting because death, even Paul kind of refers to death as a person sometimes. For if I remain, Hades is my habitation. My bed has been made in darkness. Let's see here. For turned into night, light short because of darkness. My days have passed in groaning. Heartstrings are broken. So let the faithful hold on the way. It's interesting that, let the righteous rise up against the transgressor. My eyes are dim through pain, have been previously beset by all. You have made me a byword among the nations, and I have become a scorn to them. So you see, Job is still feeling like Yahuwah is picking on him. He still feels like this is all Yahuwah doing it, and why are you picking on me? What have I done to deserve this? He shall promise mischief to companions, but eyes have failed for children. Interesting. For you have hid their heart from wisdom. There you shall not exalt them. That's interesting. We were just talking about this last night, how Yahuwah will hide wisdom from those he chooses. Who is this? Let him join hands with me. Let's see here. What have I done? Strangers have stolen my goods. Interesting. Yeah, it's very depressing. Like Sister Josie was saying, very depressing chapter. He's kind of at his breaking point of just giving up, just wanting to die at this point, wanting to go down to Sheol, wanting to go down to the grave. It's interesting. He's still holding on to the fact that Yahuwah repays the wicked and all that. He's still holding on to, Yahuwah's right ruling, his justice. Go ahead, Brother Yahusha.
The verse that says the ones with clean hands shall grow stronger and stronger. Sorry about the dog.
Okay.
That reminds me of the verse in the renewed covenant where it says, "Let those that have, or to those that have, more shall be given to them, but those that have not, even what they think they have, shall be taken." This one came to mind.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting that the Septuagint, instead of righteous, it says the trustworthy. So I guess it's paraphrasing righteous as those that really have a faith in Yahuwah. It says, let them and pure of hands take courage instead of stronger. So I guess what the Septuagint is trying to do is give you the definition of what it means to have strength spiritually, is to, take courage and all that. So yeah.
But we can all relate to Job in the terms of humanity.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
none of us can say that he's wrong for the way that he's, in a way, responding, because imagine all that he was tested. Granted, he never did curse Yahuwah like his wife was telling him, but in human terms, many of us can actually relate to, what he's saying.
Yeah, I can totally understand. Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of us can relate to the fact that we don't see the spiritual realm. We don't know what's going on. We always tend to think that Yahuwah is punishing us for something or stressing us for something. And I think a lot of that, I think I do think that Ayub, Job, we're going to see later on in this book that he admits he doesn't really know Yahuwah intimately like the other patriarchs did. He he doesn't he say, Mom, in like chapter 39 or 40, so. He says, I've heard of you, but I never met you face to face.
Right.
So what we have to understand too is Ayub's background. He was an Edomite. He was a Gentile. He was an Edomite that probably never ever met the Most High before. Yeah. He doesn't know his character that well, and I could relate. I could possibly be an Edomite myself, being Roman born. Okay. And I could totally relate. Like, we've been taught in the church a similar view of how Ayub viewed Yahuwah, like he's some big old meaning going to strike me down, and we kind of, Ayub doesn't fully understand Yahuwah's character at this point. And going back to the whole spiritual realm thing, he doesn't understand that this is the devil doing this to him. He doesn't understand that Yahuwah is allowing Satan to tempt him and test him so that Ayub could, come out victorious. How James says that, we should rejoice when we come into various trials and temptations. Obviously, Ayub didn't realize this at this time. Go ahead, Brother Yahusha.
If he never encountered Yahuwah before then, that would kind of discredit him from coming out with them during the Exodus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's they're just to piggyback off of what Yahusha is saying here. There's actually, like I said, I don't know if it's true or not. It's a opinion, a traditional tale of a lot of the sages is that Ayub was the guy in Exodus 9 that feared the word of Yahuwah and took his cattle inside when one of the plagues was happening. So if that's the case, then it would make sense why the Septuagint of Ayub in chapter 40, he finally encounters Yahuwah physically face to face, and he says, I've heard of you, but I've never seen you. I've never really met you. So that's what Brother Yahusha is talking about. So if that's what that verse truly means, then the traditional Judean tale of how Ayub converted kind of makes a lot of sense. And there's other tales, there's other extra biblical tales about him and his prior life as Jobab and all that.
I was actually meaning more along the lines of, I forget where it says it, but there's some place that says that I remember you talking about it in the past, where it claims that he came out with them during the Exodus, like he actually left Egypt with them.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I only remember looking at my Targum here. Let's see here. Exodus 9 is, let's see here. I think it's verse 20. It says here, Ayub, parentheses, Job, who reverenced the word of Yahuwah among the servants of Pharaoh, gathered together his servants and his flocks within the house. And then it talks about Balaam right after him. But Balaam, who did not set his heart upon the word of Yahuwah, left his servants and his flocks in the field. So this commentary from the Pseudo-Jonathan Targum would give light to that. At the minimum, he converted during these plagues that Job converted. And it gives like this traditional tale, I guess, that he was a servant of Pharaoh, which I've seen in other extra biblical traditions, that he was a servant of the Pharaoh of the Exodus before he converted, which is very possible.
I just always wonder, like, what an Edomite prince was doing in Egypt.
I don't know. The other traditions kind of show that somehow he was like, I guess because Egypt was at, they were ruling over like everyone at that point. So I guess that's where the tradition comes from, that he would have had to go to Pharaoh and he would have had to appear before him. Supposedly Masha's father-in-law also served Pharaoh at one point. So, I mean, these traditions kind of, they don't make that much sense in that light, but the sense that he would have joined around the time of the Exodus, however his conversion happened, I think makes a lot of sense according to the later part of the book of Job itself, saying that he really didn't encounter Yahuwah like face to face directly. He only knew about him from other people. It would definitely kind of hint to like what you're saying. I do believe the Exodus 9:20 tradition is very possible that was him. I do think it could be possible. It's just that maybe he had to subject himself to Pharaoh because they took over. At that point, Egypt was kind of like at the height of their, empire. I think it doesn't say in scripture like later on, like Egypt was never the same or something like that, or Egypt would never be at their former glory or something like that. But I think that I think there's somewhere in the prophets it talks about it, that that at this point in time in history, Egypt was pretty much ruling over everyone. They were ruling over the Ethiopians, the Hamites, like everyone. Go ahead, Sister Sadia.
Okay, what I was going to say, getting back to the women part, I hate when the women do that and they make a point of it that, like Eve listened to Shaitan and um, Job's wife. I think there's other, you know, um, examples of that. So when I hear that, I think, you know what? It's stated, so be it the case. We women got to be very careful with what we say, what we spread, and how we encourage or discourage. And because it does point it out, I know that there's evil men there, but these are two women for sure that were in a situation that made a change or of, influencing. So when I hear this, I'm like, okay, Father, I don't like to hear it, you know what I mean? But I'm glad that we do, because this just makes us realize we have to put a guard over our mouths, over any time that we're talking to somebody, if we're going to encourage or discourage. I'm guilty. I'm not saying it to anybody. I'm just speaking to myself. How about that? And prayerfully, it would be a lesson, because I think sometimes they say women are known to talk, but I think it really goes vice versa, as the same as men and women. But look how he points out, you can hear, and those are shells. No, those are shells. You can hear and act, and you can also speak with your tongue and act, which makes it even, remember the word says that with our tongue there's life and there's death in it. So we have to really be really careful, because it's a pointer. It points out, I don't care what it looks like. No matter what the whole scenario case looks like, we got to stop and think, are we going to encourage somebody when they're going through the valley of all valleys, when everything is crumbled? Or are you going to give hope and say, it's okay, this is nothing but a hill. You can climb this hill. He'll give you strength, and we'll pray for your strength, instead of, turn it around and say ugly and make a negative point out of it. That's all I wanted to say.
Hallelujah. Yeah. So far I didn't see much differences from the chapter that Sister Josie read. I really didn't see much really differences here. Kind of have the same narrative here. But as we go farther into the book, you're going to see what I'm talking about, where Job admits that he really didn't know Yahuwah intimately. And it kind of explains why he has this almost, I want to be careful the way I say this, almost like demiurge type of idea of him, where he thinks everything bad is happening to him. He thinks Yahuwah is doing this to him or punishing him for no reason. And I think sometimes we tend to have this like wrong type of idea of Yahuwah, like this big meanie in the sky type of idea. Is definitely something to keep an eye out on. I think what I'm going to do, just for the time's sake, I'll finish us off. I do see that Sister Sadia has her hand up still. Sis, did you want to say anything else?
No, I'll lower it, babe. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. You don't need to apologize. I was just double checking. All right, so we're at Job 18 here. I'll have the parallel up here so you guys can look. And I think it will be easier for a lot of people because I notice a lot of our Mishpaka here are using the ISR. So what I'll do is I'll put the ISR on one side and the LXX on the other side. So just fix that real quick. So yeah, there we go. All right. What the heck? Okay. No, I did not want to do that. Get the ESV down. There we go. All right. So Bildad, the Shuhite, answered and said, "How long will you continue, that we also may speak? Wherefore," we're at verse 3 of Job 18 right now. "Wherefore we've been silent before you like brutes. Anger has possessed you. For what if you should die? Would under heaven be desolate, or shall mountains be overthrown from their foundations? But the light of the wicked shall be quenched, and their flame shall not go up. His light, darkness in habitation, and his lamp shall be put out with him. Let the meanest of men spoil his goods. Let his counsel deceive. His foot also has been caught in a snare, and let it entangle in a net, and let snares come upon him. He shall strengthen those that thirst for his destruction. His snare is hidden in the earth, and that which shall take him is by the path. Let pains destroy him round about. Let many come about him. With distressing hunger and a signal destruction has been prepared for him. Let the soles of his feet be devoured, and death shall consume his beauty. Let the health be utterly banished from his tabernacle. Let distress seize upon him with a charge from the king. It shall dwell in his dwelling in his night. His excellency shall be shown or sown with brimstone. His roots shall be dried up from beneath. His crop shall fall away from above. Let his memorial perish out of the earth, and his name shall be publicly cast out. Again, the importance of an ancestral name being carried on. Let drive him from light into darkness. He shall not be known among his people, nor his house preserved on the earth. But strangers shall dwell in his possessions. The last groaned for him, and wonder seized first. These are the houses of the unrighteous, and this is the place of them that know not Yahuwah. And of course, wonderful Masoretic texts got to replace Yahuwah with El there. Just, they just got to keep doing that. Go ahead, Brother Yahusha.
That verse that you read about the name, the scriptures, interesting how it reads. It says you should have no name on the street. I wonder if that's why you have people like naming streets after themselves.
Yeah. I could see that. I could see the people naming streets after themselves. I mean, they were naming lands after themselves right after the flood. All these countries were named after people. So yeah, I could definitely see that. Definitely. Yeah. So it's very interesting though. This whole chapter, Bildad the Shuhite is talking about everything that's happening, that he lists only happens to the unrighteous. And I could see that as where he's getting that from. At the same time, that doesn't mean that Yahuwah won't allow us to have some adversity, and won't allow us to struggle financially. You know, Bildad seems to sound like Mr. T.D. Jakes here. Sometimes, oh, if you're doing the right thing, this only happens to the wicked. Go ahead, Brother Yahusha.
I could see Deuteronomy 27 and 28 in this.
Yeah.
Verses of Yahuwah.
Yeah, and I think this is where they get that from, is because Yahuwah tells them this is what's going to happen when you rebel. Yeah. See if I can find it specifically in chapter 27, 28. People, the Barak, the people, the Barak and the curse, okay. All the curses that wives for his daughter-in-law.
A lot of the streets and cities are named after Freemason, actually.
Yeah.
They honor their own for all this stuff. I mean, look at all the monuments and stuff that we have erected in this country. A lot of the names that you look at in some of these cities, they're all Freemason. Most of them, anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's very interesting.
That would make sense because they do believe in the scriptures, at least in a Gnostic sense.
Yeah. And a lot of the Freemasons are, they're either Edomite or they're Khazarian. They're Zionists. So they believe this pertains to them. They believe they have a right to owning streets and this and that. And yeah, it would make sense.
They can't really believe that deep down. Like, I mean, they know who the physical descendants of Yashua are. They know, like, how can they really believe that? Unless they've just been given over to debased mind.
Yeah, I could see them being given over to a reprobate mind, actually thinking that they're entitled to ruling the world. I mean, that's what their ancestor taught them. That's what Meyer Amschel Bauer taught his sons, who are the banking families. I forget if it was his 4 sons or 5 sons became all the banking clans of the world. And yeah, he was the father of Zionism, Meyer Amschel Bauer. And he actually created the idea of Zionism way back when. And yeah, ever since then, they've had self-entitlement. They've thought everything belongs to them. I'm not talking about the regular people you meet on the street. I'm not talking about if you meet a Jewish person in a deli or something. I'm talking about like the leaders of that religion. I'm talking about the ones that that control the land of Israel right now. That's what they believe. And a lot of these Freemasons are of that ethnicity. A lot of them are. They're either that or they're Edomite. A lot of them. A lot of them, can be traced back to probably even Rome. So yeah.
This is specific in Deuteronomy 28. Cursed shall be the offspring of your body and the fruits of your land, the herds of your oxen and the flocks of your sheep. He lost his flocks, his herds, and his offspring.
Aha. So this definitely shows that these guys, they had to have been grafted in somewhere around Exodus. Either that, or they somehow already had this concept before Yahuwah gave these curses.
Was Job of the Edomite lineage?
Yeah, Job, Bildad, him and his friends, according to Job 42:17 of the Septuagint, all of them were descendants of Esau. Job specifically was the fifth from Abraham. So if that means generation, he's 5 generations from Abraham, which would put him smack dab in the generation, probably somewhere between Masha's dad or Masha himself. Somewhere around that time period he was born. So Job would have been, around the timeline of the Exodus, give or take. And yeah, so they were all descendants of Esau. That's why I'm saying a lot of what Job is saying, I'm not surprised, because, he really, according to his own words in his book, whoever wrote his book, it's claiming that he did not know Yahuwah personally, like Masha and the rest of them did. He's kind of like understanding Yahuwah through someone else's lenses. And it's kind of like us, like we grow up in the church, we're taught this idea of that the creator is, this big old meaning in the sky concept. He's going to strike you down every time you mess up. And I think that's what Job is struggling with there. Like he perceives that Yahuwah is just, that Yahuwah is doing all this to him. So he's like, he just feels like he's being picked on. And I think that's why he's depressed and all that. And then you got this friend of his that's like assuming that this happened to him because he sinned, because there's no way that you can lose your possessions if you didn't sin. That's why I made that little, joke about TD Jakes and all that, because that's exactly what they believe. So I wonder if there was a concept of the barakas and curses before Yahuwah gave them to them, like if that was already in the Hebraic culture, or something like that they would have learned from someone. Because once the first
could be because didn't his wife tell him to curse Yahuwah and die? So where did she get that from?
I mean, there's no proof that his wife would have even been grafted in. There's no real proof that she would have been a believer, or she would have been someone that's genuine. Because there's really not much said about her other than in this book. I kind of wonder if she was being spiteful. Even if she was a believer, she was probably being spiteful because she just lost her children, and she was saying stupid things. And he even said to her, he's like, "Why are you so foolish? Like the heathen women. Why are you so foolish?" Saying something like that. Like she was acting foolish. She was acting stupid and foolish, and he's rebuking her. He's like, "What are you doing? Why would you tell me to curse him? Are you crazy?" So a lot of the times, sometimes we lose family members and we say stupid things like that, especially when before we've been in this walk, before Yahuwah called us, I'm pretty sure all of us have said stupid things when, we feel like it's his fault that a family member dies young, and we try to blame him. So I can understand where she's coming from, but it's not righteous. She's thinking about herself. She's being selfish and wanting him to curse Yahuwah just because of everything they lost. So to her, losing their children and all his flocks and everything, that, that's all that matters. So the reason Yahuwah actually allowed this to happen to Job from the beginning of this book was to show that Job would not curse him. Yahuwah even bet Satan. He's like, Satan, go ahead, take everything away from him as long as you don't kill him. You can take everything away from him and he still won't curse me. So Yahuwah had faith in Job. He had faith in his servant. But see, Job doesn't see this stuff in the spiritual realm. He doesn't see this. He doesn't know this. So we got to keep reminding ourselves as we're reading this book, Job does not see the spiritual warfare going up there. And I'm not talking about the Christian idea of spiritual warfare. I'm talking about like actual physical warfare in the spirit realm, where you got Satan constantly trying to accuse us before Yahuwah's throne. That's what's going on up there. So, but Job doesn't see it. He doesn't know. He has no idea. He thinks Yahuwah is doing this, and Yahuwah is not. And I think sometimes we can relate to him with that too. We want to blame Yahuwah for everything. that's a very Christian ideal, actually, to blame Yahuwah for everything, to blame, this didn't happen. Oh, it's Yahuwah's fault. What every time a murder happens, Yahuwah could have stopped it. That type of heathen mindset. We got to understand that Job, most likely, if it's true about when he would have came to know Yahuwah, there's no way that he could have known everything about Yahuwah's character at this point. There's no way. And I think that's why Job says later on, I didn't really ever meet you face to face before. And Job starts fearing, like being afraid of everything he says when he meets him finally face to face. He's like, oh. And Yahuwah even says, get up like a man. You got accusation against me? Get up like a man. Be a man. And Job's like trembling in his boots. He's like, oh my goodness, and I think that's chapter 40. It's either chapter 39 or 40 where he finally meets Yahuwah, encounters him face to face. And he really starts taking back what he said up to that point. Because that shows me that I can relate to Job, because not all of us know Yahuwah like that. How many of us can say we know Yahuwah to the point that Moses knew him? Yeah. Or knew him to the point that Noah knew him? Or knew him to the point that Enoch knew him? None of us really can claim that. So I can definitely relate and have sympathy for Job. I can fully relate. But yeah, he definitely didn't have a full understanding of Yahuwah's character. Because you can just see it in his own words. He's like, oh, why are you attacking me? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? What is a man that you consider him and torment him? So it's almost like Job has like this weird demiurge theology. Like he thinks Yahuwah is like this big meaning in the sky. And he learns later on how wrong he is about Yahuwah. And, Yahuwah has a lot of mercy on him because, Yahuwah knows that, Job did not know the whole story. Job did not know what was really going on. And, later on, Yahuwah rebukes his friends because his friends were not helping him at all. Mm-hmm. They were falsely accusing him. They were doing this. They were doing that. His little Edomite buddies were not helping. And that's another thing too. If they're raised as Edomites, as heathen pagans, most likely his Edomite buddies did not know Yahuwah like Masha knew Yahuwah. So again, they're going on limited understanding of Yahuwah's character as well. So that's an important setting to understand, is that this is the background of the people that are in this book, that are in the book of Job. A lot of this is centering around the land of Uz, Idumea, Edom. So that it's very important, to understand, what their backgrounds are, and to understand. It's kind of like, to put it in perspective, what's going on with Job and his friends would be like if me or Yahusha go through the same thing, and then we have a bunch of brothers and sisters that are just as new to this faith as we are, that are making false accusations. That's really what he's going through. That's essentially what he's going through. His so-called friends are not much wiser than he is of Yahuwah's character. And they're making presumptions, assumptions, and they're not doing any better. So, and I believe you'll start seeing how Satan uses them against him. He starts using his own buddies against him. I don't know if we got into it yet, but I think it's in chapter 15 or 16. He does that to Bildad. There's other places where it seems like a spirit is talking through Bildad or the other guy and rebuking Job and talking about, he doesn't even put trust in his own angels. What makes you think you're so special, And Satan's like using Job's friends against him. And this is why I think this book has been so tampered with in the Masoretic manuscript, is because this book shows you how much of a little runt Satan is and how pitiful he is. You know, he's got to constantly just meddle with things. He rarely ever reveals himself like in a spiritual form. He usually uses humans against humans. It just shows you the true character of Satan. Everyone thinks, oh, Satan's so scary, big meanie, you know, not big meanie, but he's so scary. He's nothing compared to Yahuwah. He's got to beg Yahuwah, you know, to do something. He's got to, you know, Yahuwah's got to okay every decision he makes against us. And you know, so Satan's not his equal at all. You know, so I think this book and the book of Genesis are the two books Satan doesn't want people reading, because it shows you who he really is. It shows you how much of a little brat he is, a spoiled little brat that couldn't get his way, so he fell from heaven, and now he's trying to beat dad. Now he's trying to dethrone his father who created him. And that's really Satan's story, is he's a spoiled little brat that didn't get his way.
Careful about poking the bear.
I'm just saying that's what he is.
Last time I did that.
I'm just saying that's what he is. That's what the Bible says he is. He's a spoiled little angel that didn't get his way. And the only thing he can do now is try to beat dad. So you know, he's not going to beat his father. And, you know, he lies to mankind, gets mankind to think somehow he's going to beat his creator. And, you know, like Brother Dennis says, he was the first stupid servant Yahuwah had. He was the first dumb servant. You know, but that's really the story of Satan. And you kind of see certain parts of his character being exposed in the book of Job, how he really, you know, operates. You know, he operates over pretty much hatred. He looks for any type of hatred among the brethren to put one brother against another. You know, I mean, it started with Cain and Abel. He saw a little bit of hatred that Cain had against his brother and used it to his advantage. And I think that's why Yahuwah tells us, you know, especially to love our brothers and sisters. And that if you don't love your brothers and sisters, the love of Yahuwah can't be in you. Because then we're going by the way of Cain. We hate our brothers and sisters. So
know you are mine if you love one another.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that was for someone out there. Hopefully, you know, any new people that Yahuwah's pulling out of the church, hopefully that message was for you, and just a basic message of why the book of Job is so important to read. But I do think that there's a reason why some spirit led the Masoretes to corrupt the book of Job in their version and make it so much different. I mean, the character of Job in the two versions, the Masoretic version makes him look out to be this self-righteous guy, which he's not. Because I've heard pastors even preach about it using the King James or a Masoretic-based Bible. And they'll say, oh, see, Job, his problem was he was trying to earn salvation with works. And I'll be smacking my head every time I hear a pastor say that. I'm like, yeah, get a legitimate version of the book of Job before you preach that. Get the Septuagint and try to find that in there. Job was not self-righteous. He was not, you know. I could ramble on and on about how that's such a false assertion of Job's character. Job knew that he was not without sin. The whole book, he's acting humble. So he's even certain times in the book of Job, he's actually praying like David, you know. So he's just basically he's containing his innocence. He believes he's innocent because all this stuff happens to him without him, you know, really breaking Torah out of nowhere. So it's like, you know, he's declaring his innocence and trying to understand what's going on. That's what's actually happening. But anyway, so hopefully you guys are enjoying reading through the book of Ayub, Job with us. Hopefully this was beneficial and edifying. Please stay tuned. Yahuwah willing, we'll continue this study next week with Job 19 to 20 and Numbers 3 to 4. So till next time, all of our brothers and sisters out there, Shabbat Shalom.